Hey there, good evening, and welcome to the first edition of Just Talking, the podcast that allows me to ramble on about everyday topics and gauge what you think about it as well, because this is going to be an interactive podcast. Before we get started, um, just want you to know that we operate here on the rule of three: like, subscribe, notify. Like the topic, like the channel, like the show. Free, doesn't cost you anything. Subscribe if you want to be down with the program. No- Notification to keep you informed of upcoming shows and streams. Those three things are the bare minimum what you should do. And actually, the bare minimum is to just like the show. It goes a long way in helping the YouTube algorithm promote the show and help it grow organically. Now, on with today's topic, and that's going to be wokeism and changing the narrative. Wokeism, or more commonly referred as woke, is a word that you heard time and time again. It's overused. We use the word to death these days. But I don't think a lot of people understand what it truly means and what's happened to it. And we'll start with what it truly means. In everyday vernacular, woke was a black slang phrase meaning to be alert, be mindful of one's surroundings. If you're going to a place where blacks weren't welcome, stay woke. If you're going to a place where there could be some sort of trouble, stay woke. Which simply means keep your mind about you, know your surroundings, be prepared for any eventuality. That's it. That's what it truly means. And the word had its day in the 20s and 30s. And as time went on, it was resigned to the dustbin and forgotten about until recently. With the advent of Black Lives Matter, the word found new prominence and new popularity. Hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag stay woke. It's the same thing. Be mindful of your surroundings. Although it took on another meaning, which is more of the awake part of the wokeness, in which be mindful, not just be mindful of where you are, understand where you are, and understand the meaning and the need for change. And that was cool. But what happened was conservatives slash Republicans slash right wingers saw that the word was gaining traction and was thought to themselves, what can we do to denigrate the word? What can we do to make the word bad? Easy. Okay, the word means is to stay awake, to keep your head on swivel, to be mindful of your surroundings, to understand what's going on and be an agent of change. What if we took it to its extreme? What if to be woke would be to defy every norm that we may have, whether perceived or not, real or imagined, and make it bad. Thus, the woke culture. Full disclosure, I don't see a problem with it. I don't see a problem with a lot of things that go on today because, in the total scheme of things, I have no skin in the game. When everything is said and done, it doesn't directly affect me. I'm aware of it. I choose not to engage it, which is different from those who don't even acknowledge its existence. They don't engage, they don't even see it. Out of sight, out of mind. And that's the majority of society today. That is part of the American psyche, the original sin. No, it's a subset of the original sin. Because the original sin was just that whites felt that they were superior to blacks and had no qualms about showing it. And they would do it in the most inhumane and barbaric ways fashion. If it was cruel and could be done to black people, they did it. Mainly because they could. Who was there to say no, don't do that? Who was there to check them? So they did these things, spoke the words, did the deeds, all in the name of knowing your role and staying in your lane, but not understanding or not caring to understand that it wasn't just their lane. We built this country and we did it for free for years, for close to 400 years. Only in the last 50 years or so, 50 to 55 years ago, were we given the right to vote, the right to be citizens in this country. And that was done begrudgingly. They didn't just wake up and say, oh, we've been wrong. We've got to give you rights. Here you go, guys. Enjoy. No. This was the culmination of years of systemic oppression, years of abuse, years of neglect, years of violence toward a group of people whose only crime was to be given, was wanting equal access. Let me say that again. The only crime that black people had was they dared to desire equal access. They wanted to be truly free. That's a really good school there. I want to send my kid there. That's a really great place to work. I'm going to work there. That's a really nice car that he's got. I want one too. And through centuries of blood, sweat, and tears, we were finally afforded that right. After years of being told and being shown that we weren't good enough, we would never be good enough because we were inferior, we somehow Man is not only to survive, but thrive. Although, no good deed goes unpunished, there was Tulsa, there was Philadelphia, there was the drownings of Oscarville, which is now Lake Lanier. Those type of evil things. Bombs being dropped on their heads in Philadelphia. Entire city blocks wiped out. People killed for no apparent reason other than we'll show them who's boss. If you don't know, now you know. The propensity for violence in Caucasian people is mind-boggling. It is insane. It is senseless. Let's look at Tulsa for a minute. You had a town that black people said, "We're all right. We got this town. We got this town. Let's make our own community," and they did, and it was thriving. They had their own banks, their own schools, their own government offices. Everything was self-contained in this town, and they were doing better than right. They were doing well. Meanwhile, white men was looking and they're going, "What's going on here? Oh no, 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 we can't have that. We can't have that at all. We can't have darkies over there, masters of their own destiny. They may get the idea that everybody can do this, and we have a national uprising, and that is the core of most white people's resentment. Fear, and it's not even fear that they don't understand us. It's the fear that we will do to them what they did to us. That was the reason why they were so against Barack Obama. Oh, now they got one of those guys in there. He's going to make it so that they're a descendant, we're descendant. He's going to destroy us. We can't have that. We're going to do what we have to do to minimize and marginalize him. What? That's not what he did. That's not even close to what he did. And he did it, and he caught flack from black people. But he did it because he understood that he was the vanguard. And he understood that there were forces in play that wanted nothing more than to see him fail. So he had to do everything by the book and above board to ensure that the next one that came might have an easier time. So no, he didn't give blacks what they wanted because he couldn't. Because all he needed was for somebody to go, "Hey, look at them. They got this and we didn't. How dare you?" Blah, 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 blah. And they try and crucify him. So he did what he could with the tools he was given. Was everything he did in agreement with myself? No. Nothing ever is. No one ever is. Because we have different agendas, we have different thoughts, we have different mindsets, we have different outlooks and outcomes of life. So no, he didn't do everything I thought he would do. But he did enough. He did enough, and I thank him for it. I thank him. I thank Michelle for sticking by him. I thank his children for not being distractions. The man was above board. He was as squeaky clean as the president could possibly be. Did he have his faults? Yes. He's human. He's not omnipotent. He's not a deity. He's a human male. He has his fallacies. He has his strengths and his weaknesses. But he chose to accentuate the strengths and minimize the weaknesses. And for that, I thank you. Everything else is just noise. Everything else is just extraneous fluff. Where was I? Where was I? Oh, yes. People tend to think that the concept of wokeism, of wokeness, isn't that big a deal. They've demonized it. They've bastardized it. They've turned the word on and the phrase on its head. And now it means negativity. You have content creators and people out here saying the woke culture is the woke culture is that woke culture is that. The woke culture in and of itself is based in good intentions. Most of what we perceive as good in society is based on good intentions. It's the people that fuck it up. It's the people. I have always said the world would be much better if there weren't any people in here to fuck it up. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The world would be so much better if there were no people in it. Because people know how to act. People don't know a good thing until it leaves. And then they want to cry that it's gone. But they're the ones that made it go away. You've got people today that cry and moan and pout and complain about injustices, whether perceived or not. Well, woe is me. Why can't things be this way? Why can't things be that way? Because you won't let it. One of the biggest problems I have in society today is everyone is on the government about things going on and how they're so meddlesome and they need to be out of the business. Leave free market alone, they say. Hands off my Medicare, they say. Affirmative action is bad, they say. Equal opportunity is bad, they say. Because it affects them negatively. But what they fail to understand, what they don't want to understand, is if they acted right in the first place, they wouldn't have to do this shit. The government came in and changed things because we complained about it to the point where they're like, oh, we got to do something. These people won't shut up. We got to change things so we can get some peace and quiet. Not because they wanted to, not even because it's right. It was to shut us up. And I, for one, am grateful for it and tired of people complaining about it. If affirmative action is so bad, and it's not, if it's so bad, why was it introduced? It was introduced because people were finding creative, novel, and new ways to deny black people the things they need. In this case, employment. Didn't matter that we just had the same qualifications. You were white, you got the job. You were black, you just said shit out of luck. The only problem I see with it is that the government, red white people, tend to overcorrect. It isn't enough for them just to even the scales. They tend to go the other way. So if they went too far right, they go too far left. To the point where it becomes, I'm sorry, I can't give you a job because we got 5 jobs and we have to fill it with 5 black people, and you're white, so oh well. I can't believe it. Oh my goodness, I can get to the job. Why did I get the job? Boo fucking who? Oh well. I say these things because I have had issues with them and deals with them to a certain extent. I haven't been um, oppressed the way others have. I've been lucky in that regard, mainly because my parents were the wise to give me a English name. If you noticed, one of the creative ways to get around affirmative action is to disregard applicants who have non-standard names. John gets a second look. Taniqua doesn't. Susan gets a second look, but not Laquan, not Javon. Yeah, the names sound cool, and they even were spelled phonetically to reflect coolness. But when the rubber hits the road and they're looking for a job, it's the thing that holds them back. I can't tell you how many times I went for a job, and because of the way I speak, my mannerisms, the way I carry myself, I was afforded an interview, and the guy went, "Oh," and the part that wasn't said was, "I thought you were white. You don't sound black. You don't act black. You don't embody your stereotype the way you're supposed to." But once again, I digress. There'll be time to talk for that another time, in another show. Back to the topic at hand. Wokeness. Wokeness can be reclaimed. Wokeness should be reclaimed because it's just a word. It's just a phrase. No more, no less. Wokeness is a state of mind. Wokeness is an idea, it's a form given function. It's a perpetual state of mind. No more, no less. But words have power. And I feel it is upon us as a collective, whether you're white, black, brown, yellow, green with blue stripes and orange polka dots for all I care. But it's up to us as a collective to make sure that the words we speak aren't perverted. They perverted woke to the point where people don't want to use it anymore because of the negative things it brings up, the negative images it draws to mind, brings to mind. It shouldn't. It wasn't meant that way. It was code speak. Code speak that died a graceful death many years ago. It enjoyed a resurgence and then was subsequently bastardized. To the point where now I'm not woke. I don't even like that word. Of course you don't like the word. You don't like what they've done to it. No one likes what they've done to it. But no one has the balls to come out and say that. Same with BLM. They managed to bastardize that term, that phrase, those words. All because when it originally came out, one word was left out. And that was Black Lives Matter too. And Black Lives Matter too is another way of saying all lives matter. Black Lives Matter too. Brown Lives Matter too. Indigenous matters too. Asians matter too. Latinos matter too. Asians matter too. We all matter. And everybody matters. Everybody matters. Without question, everybody matters. Everyone is supposed to have the right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That is our Bill of Rights, guaranteed to us as American citizens. All men are created equal. It's in the Constitution. And here we are. Here we are in a perpetual state of disarray. Here we are at each other's throats, getting more divisive by the day. Bloods and Crips, they've got nothing on Republicans and Democrats. Shoot, that's the Bloods and Crips on steroids. But instead of having colors, they have ideologies. And you've got the wrong one. If you're Democrat, you should be Republican. If you're Republican, you should be Democrat. enough. As I said before, words have power. And words used in the wrong fashion at the wrong time can have catastrophic effects upon people, upon a society. Words can start wars. Words start wars. Careless whisper, overheard by the wrong people at the wrong time without any context, is all it takes to start a war. Some of the bloodiest wars in history were started by words. The Civil War, they talk about states' rights. No, nope, no. At its heart, and in the constitutions of the Confederacy, they had the stupidity to write it down, thus removing all doubt as to true intention. Basically, it comes down to I want slaves. Fuck your feelings. I'm gonna have slaves. These people are beneath us. They're chattel. They're objects to be bought and sold. They've got no rights. They got no feelings. They're savages. They're animals. And those careless words started one of the bloodiest war in American history. 4 years of brother fighting brother. Father versus son. North versus South. And don't get me started upon the ending of it, because the ending was the second part of the original lie, the original sin. Simply put, and I'll say this quickly and then we'll wrap it up. But there's a saying, to the victor goes the spoils. Using that logic and taking that logic to its conclusion, what should have happened was that they should have occupied the South, rebuilt the South, and have safeguards in place to make sure that the people that they just freed stayed free. That's simple. That's straightforward. That easy. Bring the soldiers down to occupy the affected lands. Help reconstruct it. And then put systems in place in government to make sure it doesn't happen again. But that didn't happen. And it didn't happen because people are people. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. And I think it was Johnson, not sure, not Johnson. I think it was Jackson. Said after it was agreed to give 40 acres and a mule to settlers in South Carolina. That's it. Not the Confederate States, not the Midwest, not places like Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. South freaking Carolina. But no, we decided they don't need that. They don't want that. They don't want that. I'll tell you what they want. They don't want that. And they took the land back. And on the other side of that, you've got people who were in internment camps during World War II, the Japanese, who were rounded up, stripped of their home, their possessions, forced into internment camps. They were all given reparations at the end of it. Everybody's reparations but us. Everybody. Is it right? No. Is it fair? Hell no. Is it just? Not even close. But it's what they did. And the saying and the feeling now is we can't give it to you now because we don't know how we go about divvying up the money. We don't know how much you want to have. We don't know. Make a number. You're not going to please everybody, so don't even try. Get a number, a fixed number, and dole it out. And let the recipients do with it as they will. And with that, that's going to do it for me this evening. I really want to thank you, one and all, for allowing me to vent. And boy, did I vent. But before we go, do the three. Like, subscribe, notification. Those three things will ensure that YouTube gets our content out to more people. Be sure to comment. That increases engagement, which also affects the YouTube algorithm. You like it? Let us know. You don't like it? Let us know. You want to talk about something? Let us know. We want to hear about it. We want to hear. We can't help you if you don't tell us what you want. We strive here in the podcast of Jazzy Groove Podcast to give you the best of what you want when you want it. But we don't know that because we're not being told. In closing, one of my favorite, and this is going to sound funny, but one of my favorite radio personalities back in the day was Howard Stern. I got a kick out of him. He was funny. He was reverent. He was on point with a lot of his topics and his viewpoints. And one day, there were discussions upon him being canceled by the FCC yet again for doing things that he wasn't supposed to do. And people complaining to the FCC. And he said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, if you don't like me, don't listen. If enough people don't listen to me, I'll go away. And that's the God's honest truth. I'm hoping that more people like this, than dislike it. But either way, it's good to know. Shows can be tweaked. They can be made more relevant. They can be made funnier. All these good things can happen. But we won't know it unless you tell us. And with that, we're going to call it a day. This is OBJ saying peace to you and good night.